Naomi back with IGN's E3 live show, streaming at you from e3.ign.com. Now, we've already seen Marvel Battle Capcom this year, but how about something a little different? Both Ryan Clements and Mark Ryan are here to see Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Thank you, Naomi, and I'm Ryan Clements, and I'm very lucky to be joined by Seth Killian, Special Combat Advisor, which is the coolest title I've ever heard in my life. Thank you very much for joining me, man. I appreciate it, dude. So we're looking at Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
We are.
A match made in heaven, some will say. Why don't you give us a little bit of detail on sort of what you're showing at E3 and what's new, what's exciting?
So E3 really is the first time people have had a chance to go hands-on and be really able to play the game.
All right, cool.
So in a lot of ways, almost everything is new because also the build keeps changing all the time. But in terms of straight characters, we have some of our new challengers here. Hwoarang from Tekken, Sagat from Street Fighter, Cammy from Street Fighter, and then also Julia from the Tekken series as well.
Very cool.
And we also just had a special announcement over at the Sony press conference in their PS Vita, as it is called now. We've got a surprise. We showed off a surprise, not only with Street Fighter Cross Tekken running on that system,
right.
We had Cole from Infamous, of course, in as a special character.
Now an icon of the PlayStation universe.
He is. I guess he's moving up in the world.
Yeah,
so
seriously.
He can run for Nathan Drake next year.
But Cole is not on the console version we're seeing here, correct?
We are actually prepared to talk about that he will be on the PlayStation 3 version as well.
Excellent.
So PlayStation exclusive, Vita, and PlayStation 3.
Very cool. Well, tell us, first of all, about what it's like to sort of combine a very different cast of characters with another cast.
First of all, it's just fun. The game, this sounds like some sort of hokey marketing message, but the game began in fun, literally with Yoshinori Ono, the producer of the entire Street Fighter 4 series, Harada-san, the producer of the entire Tekken series. These guys have known each other for years and just have a friendly rivalry in Japan.
Yeah.
Literally, they were just out to dinner, talking about it, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's just do it. And so they started development on it before anything on paper ever got signed, and we had something fun to play around with, and everyone got on board with the idea. And so the game sort of began in fun,
awesome.
And it's been able to sort of stay in the fun zone. And
the fun zone is a great zone.
Fun zone is also, incidentally, the arcade where I grew up playing Street Fighter for the very first time.
There you go.
Which is now a discount bookstore. But that's the way of the arcades, and sometimes. At any rate, we've been able to try and get some of the Tekken flavor into the characters, as well as, the Street Fighter characters, this is a very Street Fighter-looking universe, although obviously with different sets of combos and chaining and tagging, which I'll bore you with in a minute. But right now,
I won't be bored.
No, it's actually tons of fun. But right now, we've been trying to capture that Tekken flavor with the characters. So the way I talk about it is, if you're familiar with a Street Fighter game, you can come into this game knowing how to throw a fireball and do a dragon punch and a hurricane kick and all that, and a sonic boom, no problem. Similarly, if you've never played a Street Fighter game before, but you're a Tekken player,
right.
And you have some special strings and chains that you remember from your characters, those are all preserved, actually, in Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Can we talk about any of that with a specific character, maybe?
Yeah, there's stuff like Kazuya and Jin and Nina, and you can just tap them out with, you can use basically the first 4 buttons on the console to tap out Tekken-style chains. So if you remember your techniques, same way a Street Fighter player would never forget how to throw a fireball.
Of course.
These guys are never going to forget how to do their electric wind god fists and hell sweeps, and you can bang those out in exactly the same way that you could before. So hopefully everybody feels familiar and comfortable together.
Is it difficult to sort of have the Tekken characters who were designed to be operating on a 3D space, and now they're sort of, I don't want to say restricted, but they're now playing on a 2D space?
That's a totally valid point. This actually gives me a chance to talk about one of my nerdiest things. I think 3D and 2D are actually, people make too big of a deal about the differences, because there's things like, in the Street Fighter world, you think of it as a 2D game, but when Cammy does her spinning back fist, that'll pass right through a fireball, right? In terms of game theoretics, it's really the same as moving into the third dimension. It's like you have a projectile in the foreground, Cammy passes into the background and passes through it cleanly. So it's very similar, actually, to the whole Street Fighter Cross Tekken thing. But we made sure the Tekken characters all have a series of special command dashes and things like that that'll help them dodge through fireballs and sail smoothly through.
All right. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Tekken characters haven't really been given projectile attacks if they never had them to begin with.
No,
right?
Exactly. So
so they've been compensated for that.
Exactly. They have a really good pressure strings up close that make people do a lot of guessing. So once one of the Tekken guys gets in your face, it can be very scary. They do have a harder time from across the screen because obviously they have to contend with the Street Fighter's projectiles. But yeah, anybody that didn't have a projectile, we're not throwing them in there. Hopefully when Namco comes out with Tekken Cross Street Fighter, they're not going to take Ryu's fireball away or anything like that either. So I know. So at the same time, you know, if the characters here didn't have fireballs, we're not going to have them doing anything like that.
All right, very good. And can we talk a little bit about like how the supers, you know, or how they operate? What
Sure.
The gauges that govern.
So yeah, you'll be familiar with, you know, you can do a special move and then you can do an EX special move as well for a cost of 1 bar. To do a super, you can do it at a cost of just 2 bars out of the 3-bar sort of super bar.
Right, yep.
So that's a little bit different. And the motions are also a little bit simplified as well. So all you do is they're never more complicated than a fireball or dragon punch motion.
Okay.
And then you just hit all 3 punches. So no more double motions or pumping, anything like that.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little bit more friendly in that regard. You can also use the bars to do called a cross counter, where you can just hit hard punch and hard kick together while you're blocking, and that'll cause like basically like an alpha counter kind of move to pop out and juggle the opponent, which is a lot of fun. But really what I love using the bar for best, and I think everybody else, it's going to be the #1 use, is for the cost of 1 bar, which you build pretty quickly, you're able to cancel any move you're doing and tag in your opponent.
Okay.
So for instance, like if I'm playing Ken and I do a hurricane kick and the opponent's caught in my hurricane kick while I'm Ken, I can tap those buttons. In comes Chun-Li, and Chun-Li can actually attack while Ken's still on the screen and getting hit by the hurricane kick. So that's one of the hallmarks of the game. We're really going to push forward with ways of getting multiple characters on the screen and mixing and matching and getting them all together for interesting combinations.
Awesome. That sounds good. Now, we're running a little low on time, so are there any other what are any other big points that you want to hit that you want our readers and listeners to check out?
What I'm really going to be trying to do is take this game out on the road with me to a lot of tournaments this summer. So of course we'll be at Comic-Con, some of the other big events all over the U.S. and internationally. So you've heard me talk about it. Hopefully the feedback from the show will be everyone's been having a lot of fun. We've had a lot of the top Street Fighter and Tekken guys come by and play it. They've been having a great time, but I want to get the game out in people's hands and let them judge for themselves. So
awesome.
Come on out and play it for yourselves.
All right, sounds good. Well, I really appreciate you joining me, man.
Thanks
you
for the
so much
time,
for your
man.
time.
My pleasure.
And thank you to the gentleman playing the game. So yeah, check out more Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and we're going to send it back to Naomi.
Thanks for that look, guys. And since it's pretty on topic, who do you think could win in a fight? Street Fighter's Dan or Tekken's Kuma? Follow at IGN on Twitter and let us know. Just remember to use the hashtag E3. Next on the show, we're going to take a stroll through a zombie-infested city. Stay tuned for Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City.